A woman boards a commercial flight as a regular passenger. Nobody knows who she is. But when air traffic control discovers her military call sign, everything changes instantly. Two F-22 fighter jets receive urgent orders from the Pentagon. They are about to perform an extremely rare military salute. A legend is about to be revealed. Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. The airport was extremely busy on that Tuesday morning in early autumn. People walked fast everywhere, carrying heavy bags and staring at their phones. The morning light came through the big windows. Nobody was paying attention to the woman standing alone at gate 15. Her name was Captain Emily Davis, but almost nobody in the world knew that name or who she really was. She wore very simple clothes. Dark blue pants, a light blue shirt, and a brown leather jacket. Her short black hair was tied back with a small silver clip. She looked exactly like any other business traveler waiting for a flight. She held a cup of hot coffee in one hand and read the news on her phone with the other hand. She seemed calm and peaceful. Emily looked up at the big board that showed all the flights. She found her flight information. Denver to Seattle. Flight 302. The plane was a Boeing 737, one of the most common commercial airplanes in the world. The flight would take 2 hours and 15 minutes. She had flown this same route many times before in her civilian life, but each time felt different now. When she was in the military, she flew very fast jets that went twice the speed of sound. Those jets could go from 0 to 500 miles per hour in just a few seconds. Commercial flights moved much slower. A Boeing 737 flew at about 500 miles per hour, and it took time to reach that speed. But Emily had learned to appreciate the slowness and the peace of commercial flight. It gave her time to think about her life and her past. She thought about the old days. When you are flying a combat mission in a military jet, you learn that rushing causes mistakes. And mistakes can cost lives. The lives of your teammates. The lives of soldiers on the ground. The lives of innocent people. So Emily had learned patience the hard way. She had learned to think carefully about every decision. "Good morning, everyone," said a cheerful voice. The gate agent was checking boarding passes. He was a young man with a bright smile. People started moving toward the plane. They formed a line to walk down the jet bridge. Emily waited in line with the others. She was not in a hurry. She never was. Patience was something that the military had taught her very well over 18 years. When it was her turn, she smiled and gave her boarding pass to the agent. The agent scanned it with his machine and gave it back to her. "Have a nice flight," the agent said, without looking up at her face. Emily nodded politely and walked down the jet bridge and entered the plane. The inside of the plane smelled like recycled air and plastic seats and cleaning chemicals. The flight attendants were standing in the front, greeting people with big smiles and friendly waves. "Welcome aboard," said one of them, a young woman with red hair. Emily found her seat. It was 8C, in the middle of the plane near the window. A window seat was always better because she liked to look outside. She put her small carry-on bag in the overhead compartment above her seat and sat down. She looked out the window at the ground crew loading bags into the cargo hold of the plane. They moved in an organized pattern. Load one bag, check the weight, move to the next position. Load one bag, check the weight, move to the next position. Everything had a rhythm and order. Emily appreciated that kind of organization and discipline. A man sat down next to her in the middle seat. He was maybe 40 years old, wearing an expensive dark blue business suit and thin glasses. He carried a big leather briefcase that looked very costly. "Hi there," he said, looking at his phone and not really at her. "I'm Robert Chin. I'm a management consultant. I travel every single week. I live in hotels more than I live at my own home, if you know what I mean." He laughed at his own joke. It was a nervous laugh. "Emily," she said simply. She opened her book. It was a mystery novel by a famous author. She was hoping that the man would understand that she did not want to talk much. Emily had learned from experience that if you showed friendly interest in people, some of them would talk forever and ever about their jobs and their problems. But Robert liked to talk. He was the kind of person who felt comfortable talking to strangers. "So where are you going?" he asked. "Seattle," Emily said. "Me too. Is it work or pleasure?" "Work," Emily said. She turned a page in her book, even though she had not read a single word on the previous pages. "What do you do for work? What is your job?" Emily did not answer right away. She looked out the window. The plane was starting to push back from the gate. A big tug was pulling the enormous aircraft backwards. It was a smooth movement, controlled and careful. The tug was powerful enough to move the entire weight of the plane. "I work with navigation systems," she said finally. "It is pretty boring work, to be honest." "Navigation systems? Like GPS or satellite navigation?" Robert asked. He seemed interested now. Robert was the kind of person who found everything interesting and wanted to talk about everything. "More advanced than that," Emily said. She did not want to say more. She did not want to talk about military technology or advanced targeting systems or anything from her past. She did not want to talk about her military career or her experiences or the things she had done. She just wanted to be a normal person going to work. Robert kept asking more questions about navigation systems and technology, but the plane was taking off. The engines got louder and louder. A deep rumbling sound filled the entire cabin. Robert stopped talking and gripped his armrest tightly. His knuckles turned white. Emily looked out the window as the plane climbed higher and higher into the sky. She felt the familiar sensation of acceleration pushing her back into her seat. The nose of the plane pointed up at an angle. The world fell away below them. Below them, Denver got smaller and smaller with every second. The mountains looked like wrinkles on brown paper. The sky got bluer and bluer. Soon they were above the clouds, and everything was white. Emily had seen this view from the cockpit of an F-16 many times. It was still beautiful. It still moved her emotions, even after all these years away from flying military planes. Emily closed her eyes. She was thinking about something very important. Or maybe she was remembering something. She was remembering a time when she was not Emily Davis the consultant. She was remembering when she was Captain Emily Falcon Davis, one of the most skilled combat pilots in the entire world. Emily Davis had a big secret. Her real name was still Emily Davis. But people who knew her from her past called her something different. They called her by her military call sign. Falcon. Captain Emily Falcon Davis. She had been a pilot. But not for a commercial airline like the pilots flying this plane. Commercial pilots flew big jets with hundreds of passengers. They followed exact routes and schedules. They were safe and predictable. Emily had flown something very different. Something much more dangerous. She had flown F-16 Fighting Falcons for the United States Air Force for 18 years. Those 18 years had been the best and the hardest years of her life. She had flown over 187 combat missions. She had been to Iraq and Afghanistan many times. She had traveled to other countries too, for classified operations that she could not talk about. She had seen things that most people never see. She had seen war from the sky. She had seen beauty and terrible things in equal measure. One time, she had shot down 2 enemy aircraft in a single day. That was very rare. Most fighter pilots never shot down even one plane in their whole career. Emily had done it twice in one day. The first time, she had been protecting American soldiers on the ground in a small town. An enemy fighter had come out of nowhere, attacking the soldiers. Emily had only a few seconds to react. She had turned her plane hard to the left. She had climbed fast to gain altitude. The enemy plane could not follow her turn. Emily had fired her missile. It was over in just seconds. The enemy plane was destroyed. The second time that same day had been similar. Another enemy fighter had appeared. Another quick decision. Another fight in the sky. Another successful shot. Emily had won again. When Emily landed that night, the ground crew had painted 2 small red marks on her airplane. One for each kill. That was pilot tradition. Each small mark meant 1 enemy aircraft destroyed. The other pilots had gathered around and cheered for her. Another time, she had saved the lives of 15 soldiers. They were trapped in a small village surrounded by enemies. They had been on a patrol mission when the enemy had attacked from many directions. The soldiers had taken shelter in some buildings, but they could not escape. They had no way out. They called for help on the radio. They sounded scared. Emily had flown her F-16 low and fast over the village. She had made several passes, dropping special bombs that helped confuse the enemy radar and weapons. She had fired her guns at enemy positions. The sound was incredible. The bullets from an F-16 gun move so fast and hit so hard that buildings come apart. Windows break. Walls collapse. Enemies ran away in fear. The soldiers escaped safely. Every single one of them survived. For that mission, she had received a medal. It was called the Distinguished Flying Cross. It was the highest honor in the military for pilots. A general had put the medal on her uniform in front of many people. There had been a ceremony with soldiers and officers and news reporters. Emily did not like ceremonies, but she had gone anyway because it was her duty. The medal was still in a box at her home. She never looked at it. But Emily never talked about these things. She did not like to tell people about her past or her achievements. That was why she was flying on a commercial airplane now, just like everyone else. She was retired from the Air Force 2 years ago. She had decided to stop flying military planes because she was tired of war and danger. Now she worked for a private company called Advanced Navigation Systems. The company helped design navigation systems for both military and civilian airplanes. It was much quieter work than being a combat pilot. Emily liked it. She did not have to think about war every day. She did not have to worry about missiles or enemy fighters. She just sat in an office and looked at computers. She helped engineers understand how military pilots needed to navigate through complex terrain and in bad weather. She helped them design better systems that could keep pilots safe. This flight to Seattle was simple and straightforward. She was going to meet with engineers at a big aerospace company. They wanted to understand more about how military planes navigate and how pilots think. Emily knew more about that than anybody in the world. She had flown F-16s for nearly 2 decades. She knew every system inside and out. She knew how pilots think. She knew how to make quick decisions in dangerous situations. So they asked her to come talk to them and teach them. She had said yes, even though she did not really want to. But she believed that sharing her knowledge was important for the future. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached our cruising altitude," said the captain's voice over the speaker. It was a smooth, calm voice. The kind of voice that had probably calmed nervous passengers 1,000 times before. "We are flying at 35,000 feet. The weather looks good all around us. We should have a smooth and uneventful flight to Seattle. We should arrive on time. Please sit back and relax. The flight attendants will be coming around soon to offer you drinks and snacks." Emily opened her eyes. She was looking out the window when she saw something interesting. 2 small shapes were moving across the sky. They were very high up, above the commercial airplane. Much higher. At maybe 40,000 feet or even higher than that. Emily's eyes got wide with recognition. She recognized those shapes immediately. Those were F-22 Raptors. The newest, most advanced fighter jets in the entire world. They were military jets. Advanced military jets. The kind of jets that could fly faster than the speed of sound. The kind of jets that had weapons systems more advanced than most countries had in their entire air force. They cost more money than whole cities. Her heart beat much faster. She watched the two jets carefully. They were moving fast. Very fast. Much faster than a commercial airplane. Much faster than her old F-16. They were moving like nothing she had ever seen before. Like they were dancing in the sky. The pilots flying those jets had to be very skilled. Very, very skilled. Robert noticed that Emily was staring out the window very hard. Her whole body had changed suddenly. She had become tense. Every muscle was tight. "What are you looking at?" he asked with curiosity. "Just clouds," Emily said. But she was still watching the jets. She was analyzing their movement very carefully. She was thinking about the pilots. She was thinking about what they were doing up there. The two F-22s were patrolling the sky above the commercial flight. The pilots were Major Tom Steele Anderson and Captain Sarah Shadow Lee. They were two of the best pilots in their entire squadron. They had trained for years and years. Each of them had flown over 300 hours in the F-22. That was more hours than most pilots flew in their entire military careers. They knew every system in the airplane. They knew every button and switch. They could fly their jets with their eyes closed if they needed to. Major Steele had earned his call sign because he was calm under pressure. Nothing scared him. Nothing made him nervous. He had flown in terrible storms with lightning all around him. He had flown with engine problems and damaged wings. He had flown while being attacked by enemy missiles. His heart rate never went up. His hands never shook. He was Steele. That was why everyone called him that. Captain Shadow had earned her call sign because she could appear and disappear. She was so skilled that she could fly her jet in ways that seemed impossible. She could turn sharper than most pilots could even imagine. She could climb faster. She could dive faster. She could think faster than most people could think. The two of them worked well as a team. They had been flying together for 3 years. They knew how the other one thought. They could communicate with just a few words. "Tower, this is Raptor Flight," said Steele into his radio. His voice was calm and professional. "We are beginning patrol on Route Charlie. Altitude 40,000 feet. "Copy that, Raptor Flight," said the voice from the Air Force Base far below. Peterson Air Force Base. It was a large base with hundreds of pilots and support crews. "Maintain visual on all civilian traffic in your sector. We are running security checks today. Keep your eyes open for anything unusual." "Roger that," said Shadow. "We are ready to assist if needed." They flew their jets in a large circle over many miles. Below them, they could see many commercial airplanes. Each one was carrying hundreds of people. Maybe thousands of people total. All these people were trusting their pilots. All these people were sleeping or reading or working on their laptops, not knowing that two advanced fighter jets were watching over them from way up high in the sky. "Shadow, we have civilian traffic at 3 o'clock, said Steele. Boeing 737 heading toward Seattle. "I see it," said Shadow. "It looks like it is headed to Seattle based on the flight path. Speed looks consistent with normal commercial cruise speed. Everything looks normal." "Roger," said Steele. They did not think anything was wrong. It was just a normal commercial airplane. A big Boeing 737 full of people. They would keep watching it as part of their normal patrol. They would make sure nothing happened to it. They would protect it if necessary. That was their job. That was what they had trained for their entire lives. But something was about to change. Something very important. Something that would make this patrol different from every other patrol they had ever flown. At Spokane Air Traffic Control Center, a man named Controller Davis was sitting at his desk looking at his computer screen. He was watching all the airplanes in his region of the sky. Each airplane showed up as a small target on his screen. He could see where each one was going. He could see their altitude and their speed. It was like looking at a video game. But it was real. These were real airplanes with real people inside them. Suddenly, his computer made a loud sound. Beep beep beep. 3 short sounds. This meant something important was happening. Something that required immediate attention. A red light was blinking on his screen. This was not normal. This was unusual. Controller Davis felt his heart get faster. He looked closer at his screen. A special flag had appeared next to one of the airplanes. The flag was bright red and it was flashing. That is strange, he said to himself. He was confused. He looked at the airplane's information more carefully. It was Flight 302. A Boeing 737. Going from Denver to Seattle. The same flight he had been watching. He looked at the passenger list for Flight 302. The computer had checked all the names of the people on the plane against national security databases. These were automatic systems that were always running in the background. One name made the computer send an alarm. Captain Emily Davis. Seat 8C. Controller Davis's mouth fell open in shock. He knew that name. Everyone in the Air Force knew that name. He had read about this person in military training materials. He had seen videos of her missions. He had heard incredible stories about her from other pilots. Nobody was like Captain Emily Davis. That is impossible, he said to himself. It cannot be. It cannot be her. She is retired. Supervisor, he called out very loud. Supervisor, come here right now. This is urgent. This is very urgent. An older man came over quickly. This was Supervisor Williams. He had been working at air traffic control for 30 years. He had seen many things in his career. He had seen emergencies and problems and crazy situations. But nothing had prepared him for this moment. What is wrong? Asked Supervisor Williams. He was calm because he was used to remaining calm in stressful situations. Look at this, said Controller Davis. His hand was shaking. Look at this screen. Flight 302 has a passenger. Captain Emily Davis. Seat 8C. That name is in the military database. It is triggering a security alert. The system is flagging it as a high priority match. This is the highest security flag we have. Supervisor Williams leaned down and looked at the screen. His eyes grew very big. He read the information slowly. He read it again. He could not believe what he was reading. Are you sure? He asked. Are you absolutely sure? Could this be a different Emily Davis? There must be many people with that name. No sir, said Controller Davis. Look at all this information. It is showing her military file. Call sign Falcon. Pilot. F-16 Fighting Falcons. 18 years of service. Iraq and Afghanistan. Multiple decorations. Distinguished Flying Cross. Silver Star. Purple Heart. It is her. It has to be her. There is no other Falcon. There is only one Falcon in the United States Air Force. Supervisor Williams sat down in a chair. His legs felt weak. That is her, he said quietly. That is the real Falcon. I cannot believe this. I cannot believe she is flying on a commercial airplane like a regular passenger. Supervisor Williams picked up a red telephone. This telephone connected directly to Peterson Air Force Base. This was a special phone for very important information. This was a phone that was only used for emergencies or critical information. "This is Spokane Air Traffic Control," he said. His voice was steady and professional. "We have identified a high-priority military person on a civilian flight. We need to report this to command immediately. The person's name is Captain Emily Davis. Her military call sign is Falcon. She is retired Air Force. She is flying on Flight 302. Currently at altitude 35,000 feet. Heading toward Seattle. This is confirmed information." The person on the other end of the phone said, "Stand by. I am connecting you to Command Center right now. This is very important." For 30 seconds, there was quiet. Then a new voice came on the phone. It was a general. A very high-ranking officer. A general who made important decisions for the entire Air Force. A general who reported directly to the Pentagon. "Spokane Control, this is Peterson Command," said the general's voice. He sounded surprised and shocked. "Did you say Falcon?" "Yes, sir," said Supervisor Williams. "Captain Emily Falcon Davis. She is aboard Flight 302. She appears to be traveling as a regular civilian passenger." There was a long pause. Then the general said, "This is a very important person. Very important for the Air Force. She is a legend. A true legend. Stand by for further instructions. I am connecting you to Pentagon Command. This needs to go higher than me. This is too important." At Peterson Air Force Base, pilots Steele and Shadow received new orders through their radios. "Raptor Flight, this is Command," said a different voice now. It was a higher authority. A higher command. "We need you to increase altitude and move closer to civilian Flight 302. "Roger that, Command," said Steele. His voice was calm and professional. "What is the situation, Command? Is there a security problem?" "There is a high-priority military VIP on that flight," said Command. "We need you to provide special escort and security. When you receive further instructions, you will render a special recognition salute. This order comes directly from the Pentagon." "Repeat." "The Pentagon has authorized this order. This is real." Steele and Shadow looked at each other over their radios even though they were flying separate planes. They could not see each other's faces, but they could imagine the expressions on their faces. A recognition salute was very rare. It only happened for the most important people. It only happened for people who had done something extraordinary. Something that changed everything. Something that saved many lives. "Command, who is this VIP?" asked Shadow. Her voice was steady, but there was emotion underneath it. She was excited. "Call sign Falcon," said the command officer. "Captain Emily Falcon Davis. Retired." Steele's hands became tight on his controls. His heart rate went up for the first time all mission. He could not believe what he was hearing. "Did you say Falcon?" he asked. "The Falcon? The real Falcon? Are you absolutely sure?" "Affirmative, Raptor Flight," said Command. "Captain Emily Falcon Davis. 20 years of service. 187 combat missions. Confirmed air-to-air kills. Distinguished service record. She is a true legend." Shadow's voice came through. Her voice sounded different now. Emotional. Full of respect. "Command, Falcon is a legend. She shot down 2 enemy aircraft in one day. I have read about that. She saved soldiers in the desert. She has received every major decoration for valor. I learned about her story in pilot training school. Her missions are what taught me to be a pilot. I became a fighter pilot because of her story." "That is correct," said Command. "She is one of the greatest combat pilots in Air Force history. You have been cleared to render a recognition salute. This is a high honor. This is an honor you will remember for the rest of your careers. Steele changed his direction immediately. He pushed his controls forward. The powerful engines responded. Shadow, we are moving to intercept position now. Let us make this perfect. This is the most important thing we will ever do. Roger that, Steele, said Shadow. This is the most important mission we have ever flown. Steele and Shadow moved their F-22s into perfect formation beside the Boeing 737. The commercial plane was big, but the F-22s were much faster and more powerful. The pilots had to be very careful with their movements. One mistake could be dangerous. But these were the best pilots in the Air Force. They had trained their entire lives for moments like this. Falcon, if you can hear me, this message is for you, said Steele into the emergency radio channel. His voice was full of respect and emotion. This salute is from the pilots of the United States Air Force. You showed us what courage is. You showed us what it means to be a real fighter pilot. You have inspired all of us to be better. Thank you. Shadow added her voice. Her voice was emotional but controlled. Captain Davis, you are a legend in every way. You saved lives. You risked your own life for others many times. You went back into danger again and again. You never gave up. You never quit. Thank you for showing us the way. Thank you for being who you are. Then the two F-22s performed their salute. They moved in a perfect pattern. They flew up and down in synchronized movements. They moved left and right. It was beautiful and powerful. The jets were so advanced that they could make moves that looked impossible. For almost 2 minutes, they flew in perfect formation. Every movement was controlled and meaningful. Every movement showed respect and honor. From inside the airplane, Emily watched with tears running down her face. She could see the pilots in their cockpits. She could see the details of the advanced jets. The sleek design. The powerful engines. The weapon systems underneath the wings. She understood what they were doing. This was a salute from pilots to a pilot. It was a message of respect and honor and gratitude. The passengers were pressing against the windows. They were making videos with their phones. Some people were crying. They could feel the power of this moment. They knew they were seeing something special. Something rare. Something they would never forget. When the F-22s completed their salute, they moved back to a higher altitude. They stayed nearby to continue protecting the flight. They had completed their mission. It was the most important mission they would ever fly. The captain's voice came over the speaker system. Ladies and gentlemen, what you just witnessed was an extremely rare military recognition salute. This honor is reserved only for the most decorated and respected military personnel in the history of the United States Armed Forces. We have a special passenger on board today. The pilot of those F-22 fighters wanted to honor Captain Emily Davis, call sign Falcon, for her extraordinary service and bravery. The entire cabin erupted. People were standing up and clapping. Some were cheering. Some had tears in their eyes. Everyone was looking around trying to figure out where Captain Davis was sitting. Robert looked at Emily with his mouth wide open. That is you. That is really you. You are Falcon. Emily nodded slowly. She felt very uncomfortable with all the attention. I am retired now, she said quietly. I just wanted to fly like everyone else. A flight attendant came rushing over. Captain Davis? Oh my God. I cannot believe this. You are on our flight. You are a legend. I learned about you in history class. You saved so many people. An elderly man who was sitting across the aisle stood up and came over. He was wearing a Vietnam War veteran hat. Captain Davis, I served in the Navy for 40 years. I know what bravery is. I know what sacrifice is. Thank you for your service. Thank you for showing us what a real hero looks like. A young woman who worked as a pilot for another airline came over and asked for Emily's autograph. You are the reason I became a pilot, she said. I read your story and I wanted to be just like you. Children started coming over asking questions. Did you really shoot down bad guys? How fast can your jet go? Were you scared? Emily answered each question patiently and kindly. She signed their napkins and their boarding passes. She took photos with families. A soldier in a military uniform came over and saluted Emily. Ma'am, it is an honor to meet you. I am Sergeant James Wilson from Fort Carson. Your story is taught in our leadership school. You taught me what courage really means. Emily stood up and hugged the sergeant. She had tears in her eyes again. She was moved by all this respect and love from strangers. As the plane started to descend toward Seattle, the captain made another announcement. Before we land, I want to say something personal. On behalf of the entire crew of Flight 302, we want to thank Captain Emily Davis for flying with us today. We have never had such an important passenger before. It has been the greatest honor of our careers. The flight attendants presented Emily with a special gift. It was a beautiful framed photo of the plane with the F-22 jets flying beside it. The flight crew had all signed it. It said, "To Captain Emily Falcon Davis. With the deepest respect and gratitude. From the crew of Flight 302. Emily looked at the photo with wonder. She thought about how her whole day had changed. She had boarded this plane hoping to be invisible. Now she was a symbol of courage and service to everyone on the aircraft. When the plane landed in Seattle, passengers clapped and cheered for Emily. She was the last person to get off the plane. She walked slowly down the aisle, shaking hands with people and thanking them for their kindness. Outside at baggage claim, news reporters were waiting. They had heard about the F-22 salute on the radio. They wanted to interview Emily. But she politely said no. She did not want to be famous. She just wanted to continue helping people and sharing her knowledge. She went to meet with the engineers at the aerospace company. She told them everything she knew about military navigation systems. She told them how pilots think under pressure. She told them how to save lives through better technology. The engineers said it was the most valuable information they had ever received. That night, Emily sat in her hotel room in Seattle. She looked at the framed photo from the flight crew. She thought about Steele and Shadow flying their F-22s. She thought about all the passengers who had thanked her. She thought about her military career and what it had meant. She realized that her service was not over. It was just changing form. She could still help people. She could still inspire people. She could still make a difference. She understood now that hiding from her past was not the answer. Her past was full of purpose and meaning. Emily picked up her phone and sent an email to the Pentagon. She asked if she could participate in pilot training schools. She wanted to teach the next generation of pilots about courage and leadership. She wanted to share her experiences so that other pilots could learn from her. The Pentagon responded the next day. They said yes. They were honored to have her participate in training. They wanted her to visit military bases and tell her story to young pilots. Emily Davis, call sign Falcon, was ready for a new mission. Not in a fighter jet, but in the hearts and minds of the next generation of warriors. Her journey was not over. It was just beginning again in a different way.